My wife of 42 years has a secret. Every night after she thinks I'm asleep, Brenda sneaks out of our bed and creeps down the hall to our son's bedroom. A few nights ago, I set up a hidden camera. I thought I was prepared for anything, maybe an affair, maybe a secret illness. But what I saw was so much worse than I ever could have imagined. And it proved my whole life had been built on a foundation of lies. Before I show you what was on that video and how I used their own plan to destroy them, let me know in the comments what city you're listening from. And hit that like and subscribe button if you believe that the truth, no matter how painful, always needs to come to light. 2:17 a.m. I'm Julian, 68 years old, and I'm wide awake. I didn't wake up from a bad dream. I didn't wake up from a noise outside. I woke up because of the silence. The space on the mattress next to me where my wife Brenda has slept for 42 years was cold. The comforter was still neatly folded. She'd been gone for a while. Then I heard it. A creak. The third floorboard in the hallway. The one I'd promised to fix 6 months ago. The one that always screams when someone is trying to be quiet. I sat up in bed. My old joints protested, but my mind was instantly painfully clear. I didn't need my glasses to recognize that something was wrong. The weak yellow light from the street light outside filtered through our bedroom window just enough for me to see a shadow past the crack in our door. Brenda's shadow. She wasn't going to the bathroom. The bathroom is to the left. She was going right, down the hall, toward Andre's room, our son's room. I slid my feet off the bed. The thick carpet we bought in Macon 30 years ago swallowed the sound of my movement. I'm a retired mechanical engineer. I believe in logic. I believe in cause and effect. And this was illogical. The hallway was dark. I saw her. Brenda was standing frozen in front of our son's door. She was in her old lilac-colored nightgown. Her hair was a mess. She stood there for at least 10 seconds like she was gathering her courage. Then she did something that sent a chill straight down my spine. She didn't knock. She put her hand on the doorknob. She turned it. So slowly, so deliberately. It must have taken a full minute. A calculated move designed to make zero sound. She slipped inside. The door clicked shut, a sound so quiet you would miss it if you weren't listening for it. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Andre is 35 years old. His wife Megan is in there with him. Why would a 65-year-old mother sneak like a thief into her son's bedroom at 2 a.m? I held my breath. I moved down the hall, my bare feet silent on the runner. I pressed my ear against the thick solid wood of the door. Silence. Then a whisper. Brenda's voice, shaky and urgent. I'm not sure. They look so much alike. Then another voice, Megan, my daughter-in-law, sharp, impatient, cold as ice. You have to be sure. It has to be the right one this time. Don't mess this up again. Do you understand me? A small sniffle. I understand. Good. Now go. Before he wakes up. The right one. Mess this up, I recoiled. I moved like a shadow back to my bedroom. I scrambled into bed, pulled the covers up to my chin, and shut my eyes. Seconds later, I heard the floorboard creak again as Brenda passed. She slipped into the room, silent. She climbed into bed. I could smell something on her. It wasn't her usual lavender hand lotion. It was something sterile. Like rubbing alcohol. She thought I was asleep. She lay down, but I could feel her. She wasn't sleeping. She was trembling. I lay there perfectly still, my mind screaming. This was the third night in a row I'd woken up to find her gone. The first night I assumed she was in the bathroom. The second night I figured she went downstairs for water. Tonight I knew where she was going, and I knew I was being lied to. What were they doing to my wife, and what exactly was the right one? I was going to find out, starting tomorrow morning. The next morning, the tension in the kitchen was so thick I could have cut it with a knife. Megan was glued to her phone, her bright red nails tapping a rapid rhythm on the screen. Andre, my 35-year-old son, was shoveling Captain Crunch into his mouth like a teenager, cereal that I had paid for. Brenda was fumbling with the coffee maker, her back to me. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were puffy. I cleared my throat. Sleep well last night, Brenda. She jumped, her whole body jerking. The ceramic mug she was holding slipped from her grasp and shattered on the tile floor. Coffee splashed everywhere. Lord Julian, you scared the life out of me. She bent down her hands, shaking, trying to pick up the broken pieces. Yes. Yes, of course, I slept like a baby. Why would you ask? You just seem tired, I said, my voice perfectly level. I bent down to help her. Megan looked up from her phone. A condescending smirk pulled at one side of her mouth. You losing sleep again, Dad? It happens to old people. Maybe you should get that checked out. I looked at my daughter-in-law, this white woman who came from some wealthy suburb, sitting in my kitchen, a kitchen I'd built with my own 2 hands in the heart of View Park. I was paying for the cereal my son was eating. I was paying the electricity that was charging the phone my daughter-in-law was staring at. They had moved in 6 months ago. Just temporarily, Dad, Andre had said. Just until my dropshipping business takes off. That business had taken off by burning through $20,000 of their savings and getting them evicted from their apartment. Temporarily had stretched into 6 long months, and I saw no end in sight. I didn't argue with Megan. I just nodded. Maybe so. I stood up. I'm going out to get some things. We're out of coffee. Brenda looked relieved. Oh, yes, you drive careful. I grabbed the keys to my old Ford. I glanced at Andre. He didn't even look up from his cereal bowl. I backed out of the driveway of our quiet, tree-lined street. But I didn't turn right toward the Ralph's grocery store. I turned left. I headed for the freeway. I drove to Best Buy. Inside, the fluorescent lights were bright and cold. I was an engineer. I know technology. I didn't need some young kid in a blue shirt to help me. I went straight to the home security aisle. I knew exactly what I needed. I picked out a digital alarm clock. It was modern, sleek, and black. It had USB charging ports. And, of course, a 4K Wi-Fi camera hidden inside the face. I grabbed one more. A portable power bank, the heavy-duty kind kids use for their laptops. It also had a camera perfectly concealed. I paid in cash. On the way home, I stopped at a different grocery store, one we never went to, and bought a bag of coffee. My alibi. When I got back, Andre and Megan were gone, probably networking, which meant spending my money at Starbucks. Brenda was scrubbing the kitchen floor. My silence had begun. My plan was in motion. I told Brenda I needed to reorganize some wiring in the living room. I placed the power bank on the bookshelf. Its lens was tiny, hidden in one of the USB ports. It had a perfect wide-angle view of the entire living room, the front door, and most importantly, the hallway leading to the bedrooms. I synced it to my phone. The picture was crystal clear. The second camera was trickier. I needed it inside their room. I waited until Andre and Megan got home that afternoon. They were empty-handed, which meant another successful day of job hunting. I called them over. Hey, I saw this at the store. I know you two are always running out of battery. I handed Megan the alarm clock. It's got charging ports. Go ahead and use it. Call it a late housewarming gift. Andre lit up. Awesome, Dad. My old one's broken. Megan studied it. I watched her eyes scan the surface, looking for something. She was a suspicious person. But I had chosen well. It looked completely, perfectly normal. Thanks, Dad, she said, that same smirk on her face. That's useful. She took it into their room. I held my breath. 10 minutes later, I saw the second device come online in my app. She had placed it on their dresser, directly facing their bed. Perfect. The tension in the house ratcheted up that evening. While I was watching the news, I saw Brenda go to the medicine cabinet in the main bathroom. She opened it and just stared at the rows of bottles inside. She seemed confused. Her hand hovered, trembling over the labels. You looking for something, Brenda? I asked from my armchair. She jumped again, nearly dropping a bottle. Julian, stop sneaking up on me. I just asked a question. It's nothing. She stammered, her hand still fluttering over the bottles. Just a headache. I'm sure I left the Tylenol in here somewhere. I narrowed my eyes. You don't have a headache. I do, she snapped. I know how I feel. I got up. I walked over. I pointed to the bottle of Tylenol right in the front. It's right there. Oh, she said, her voice small. Right. I looked into her eyes. They darted away, refusing to meet mine. Brenda is the most organized person I have ever known. She arranges our medicine cabinet alphabetically. She has never left anything in her life. She knew exactly where the Tylenol was. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. She hurried past me. I'm going to bed early. I'm tired. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, my eyes closed, pretending. My phone was in my hand underneath the comforter. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 2:19 a.m. My phone vibrated. A tiny buzz, almost imperceptible. Motion alert. I opened the app. Living room camera. I saw Brenda. She was standing in our bedroom doorway looking back at my side of the bed. Then she turned and crept down the hall. She stopped at Andre's door. This time she didn't sneak. She knocked. A soft, specific tap. Tap, tap, tap. The door opened almost immediately. Megan pulled her inside. My thumb moved, switching the feed. Camera 2. The alarm clock. I held my breath. I was prepared for anything. An argument. A drug deal. But what I saw was stranger and more sinister than anything I could have ever imagined. I sat there in the total darkness of my own bedroom, the comforter pulled up to my chest. The only light came from the phone in my hand. The screen felt impossibly bright, casting a sick greenish glow on my face. My heart was a cold stone in my chest. I was watching the live feed from the camera in their room. The timestamp in the corner read 2:20 a.m. The image was grainy from the night vision, but the audio was perfectly, horribly clear. Brenda was standing just inside their bedroom door, clutching her nightgown. She looked small. Andre was sitting on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. Megan was standing over them both, her arms crossed. She was wearing an expensive-looking silk robe. "Well," Megan snapped. Her voice was a low hiss. "Did you get it?" I watched my wife, the woman I had shared a life with, slowly unclench her fist. Her hand was shaking so badly she could barely open it. She held out a small orange prescription bottle. Megan snatched it from her. She held it up close to her face, squinting at the label in the dim light from their bathroom. A few seconds of silence. Then Megan's voice was filled with a venom that made my blood run cold. "This," she hissed, "is his blood pressure medication. You senile old fool." Brenda flinched, a sound like a small wounded animal. I'm sorry. They look the same." "They don't look the same." Megan threw the bottle onto the bed. It bounced off the comforter and landed on the floor. "I told you to get the sleeping pills, the ones Dr. Carter gave him after his surgery, the blue ones. How hard is that?" "I was nervous," Brenda whispered. "Oh, Mom, you're messing this up," Andre finally chimed in. His voice wasn't angry. It was pathetic. It was the whine of a spoiled child. "We talked about this. It's simple." "It's not simple," Brenda's voice cracked. Julian, he almost caught me in the bathroom." "I don't care," Megan cut her off. Her voice was flat, devoid of all emotion. "You go back tomorrow night, and you get the right ones. We need him confused for the meeting. Do you understand? He can't be sharp. We need him groggy and out of it." "A meeting?" Brenda asked, her voice trembling. "What meeting?" "Just do what we tell you," Megan said. She pushed Brenda not hard but firmly toward the door. Go back to bed, and try not to screw this up again. There's too much at stake." The door opened and Brenda scurried out. The door clicked shut. I watched Megan turn back to Andre. "She's useless." Andre looked up. "What if he finds out?" "He won't find out," Megan said. "He's just a tired old man. He trusts her. He trusts us. Now come back to bed." The screen went dark as she hit the light switch. I sat there, my phone screen timed out, plunging me back into total blackness. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Blood pressure pills, sleeping pills. Make him confused. For the meeting. The words echoed in my head one after another, a hammer blow with each one. This wasn't a secret illness. This wasn't some strange midnight comfort. This was a plot. They were trying to drug me, my own son, my daughter-in-law, and my wife. My Brenda was their accomplice. She was the one sneaking into the bathroom. She was the one whose hand was supposed to deliver the poison. A cold, different kind of anger started to burn through the shock. It was a slow chemical burn. It started in my stomach and spread out to my fingertips. Confused for the meeting. What meeting? What were they planning? My mind, the engineer's mind, started to click and whir. It pushed past the betrayal. It started looking for the mechanics of the plot. They didn't want me asleep. They wanted me groggy, befuddled. They wanted me to appear incompetent, senile, like the old man Megan thought I was. Why money? It had to be money. My pension. The house. The house that was paid in full, the house they were living in for free. My thumb shaking only slightly hit the screen. I opened the app. I went to the saved recordings. I hit play. I needed to see it again. I needed to see it without the shock. I needed to see it as evidence. The scene played out. The green, grainy figures, Brenda entering. "Did you get it?" Megan's voice. I watched Brenda's hand. It wasn't just shaking, it was trembling. A full body tremor. I watched her face. Even in the bad light, I could see her eyes. They were wide, terrified. I listened to her voice. I'm sorry. They look the same. It wasn't the voice of a guilty co-conspirator. It was the voice of someone in over her head, someone who was being forced. I watched Megan, the way she stood, the power she radiated. She stood over both my wife and my son. She was the one in charge. Andre was just a weak, pathetic echo. "Go," Megan had ordered. "Go back to bed." Brenda hadn't just left. She had fled. My breath caught. I rewound it again. What if he finds out Andre's wine? He won't find out. He's just a tired old man. He trusts her. He trusts her. They were using her. They were using my 42 years of marriage against me. They were using my trust as a weapon, but they were using something against her too. Brenda would never do this, not willingly. She loved me. I knew she did. The woman who had held my hand through my father's funeral, the woman who had spent 6 weeks sleeping in a hospital chair after my heart surgery, she would not try to drug me. Unless she was being threatened. Unless they had something on her, or something on Andre. Something so terrible that she was willing to betray me to protect her son. The shock in my chest solidified. It turned from a cold, empty void into a solid block of ice. I was no longer a betrayed husband. I was an engineer with a problem to solve. My family was infected. Megan was the virus. Andre was the willing host. And my wife, Brenda. She was the first victim. They thought I was a tired old man. They thought I was weak. They thought I was confused. They had no idea who they were dealing with. My plan just changed. I wasn't just going to find out the truth. I was going to set a trap, and I was going to use their own arrogance, their own cruelty to snap it shut on them. I saved the video file. I saved it to the cloud. I saved it to a hidden folder, and then I lay back down, closed my eyes, and waited for morning. The meeting. Whatever this meeting was, I would be ready for it, and I would not be confused. I made my way downstairs the next morning. I didn't just walk. I shuffled. I kept my hand on the banister, my feet unsteady. I'd skipped my morning shave. When I got to the kitchen, I made a show of rubbing my temples as if a great fog was sitting behind my eyes. Brenda was already there, her hands fluttering around the coffee pot. "Julian, are you all right? You slept in." "I'm just tired, Brenda," I mumbled. "So tired. My head feels fuzzy." Megan was sitting at the table, already dressed in a sharp cream-colored pantsuit. She looked up, and I saw it. A flash of pure triumph in her eyes. A quick, satisfied smirk she tried to hide behind her mug. "Morning, Dad. Maybe you should sit down. You don't look so good." "I'm fine," I grumbled. I went to pour a cup of coffee. I deliberately let my hand shake. I missed the cup. Hot coffee splashed onto the white counter. "Damn it!" "Oh, Julian, let me get that," Brenda cried, rushing over with a towel. She was practically vibrating with nerves, her eyes darting between me and Megan. "See, Mom, I told you," Andre said from the table, not even looking up from his phone. "He's just not as sharp as he used to be." "I'm fine," I growled, sitting down heavily at the table. I played the part, the grumpy, confused old man they wanted me to be. Right at 9 a.m., just as Megan was looking at her watch, for the third time, a car pulled up. It wasn't just any car. It was a black Mercedes polished to a mirror shine. It cost more than my first 2 houses combined. A man got out. He was white, in his mid-50s, with perfectly coiffed silver hair and a suit so expensive it looked armored. He was carrying a sleek, dark brown leather briefcase. "He's here," Megan announced, standing up. She was all smiles, her voice bright and professional. Andre, the 35-year-old child, jumped up to open the front door like a bellhop. This was it. The meeting. The man glided in like he already owned the place. He didn't shake my hand. He didn't even really look at me. His eyes scanned the room, assessing. The woodwork, the ceiling height, the original hardwood floors. A lovely home, he said, his voice smooth as oil. Wonderful bones. Dad, Mom, this is Mr. Henderson, Megan said, gesturing with an open palm. He's the financial consultant I was telling you about. He has an amazing opportunity for us, for the whole family. I just grunted, rubbing my temples as if the light hurt my eyes. Keep playing the part, Julian. Let them think they're winning. We all sat at the dining room table, the table where we had hosted 42 Thanksgivings, the table where I had helped Andre with his 6th grade algebra, and now it was the scene of my own execution. Mr. Henderson clicked open his briefcase. He took out a stack of papers. It was thick, at least an inch thick, bound in a neat blue folder. He slid it across the polished wood toward me. Julian. Megan started leaning in. Her voice was syrupy sweet, the fake condescending tone she used when she wanted something. We know you've been worried about money lately, and Andre and I, well, we've found a way to secure our future. All of our futures. Andre was nodding beside her, a puppet on a string. It's a great deal, Dad. It's an investment, a sure thing. What Mr. Henderson has structured for us, Megan continued, is a brilliant plan to leverage the equity you've built up in this house. It's basically a way to turn this old house into working capital for us, for the family, without having to sell it. I looked at the stack of papers. I looked at Henderson, who was smiling a shark's smile, all teeth. I looked at Andre, who was staring intently at a spot on the wall, refusing to meet my eyes. They were trying to steal my house. I pretended to be overwhelmed. Equity, I don't understand all these terms, Megan. You don't need to understand, Dad, Andre said a little too quickly. That's why Mr. Henderson is here. It's all just paperwork. He handles everything. Exactly, Megan said, her smile widening. She tapped the top page with a perfectly manicured nail. It's just a formality. It allows us to access the money that's just sitting here, tied up, doing nothing. It's for Andre's new business venture. It's for all of us. She slid a pen across the table. It wasn't a cheap Bic. It was an expensive, heavy, gold-plated fountain pen. We just need your signature, right here and here. Mr. Henderson will show you all the spots. I looked down at the pen. I looked at the papers. My hand, the one that had been shaking, was now perfectly steady. The fog in my head, the pretend fog, was gone. It was replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I am Julian. I am 68 years old. I am not a confused old man. I am a mechanical engineer. I spent 40 years of my life reading complex blueprints. I reviewed 100-page contracts for multi-million-dollar industrial machinery. I could spot a faulty decimal point or a hidden liability clause from 50 feet away, and they thought I couldn't read this. I ignored the pen. I ignored Megan's expectant face. I reached out and slowly, deliberately pulled the stack of papers toward me. Dad, you don't need to read all that. Megan started, her voice suddenly tight. It's very complicated. Mr. Henderson already reviewed it. Shh, I said. I picked up the top page. I scanned it. My eyes, the eyes they thought were failing, found the words instantly. Application for home equity conversion mortgage, a reverse mortgage. My eyes kept scanning. Loan-to-value ratio, origination fee, mandatory counseling waived, default clause non-occupancy, spousal protection. They weren't just taking out a loan. They were signing my entire house away. They were leveraging every single thing I had ever worked for. This house, my home, the home I had paid off in full 12 years ago, the home I owed nothing on, the home that was supposed to be my safety net, my one true asset, my legacy. They were trying to trap me in a mountain of debt that would be due the second I was gone or the second they could prove I was confused and moved me into a home. My blood pressure was rising. I could feel the heat in my face, but I didn't yell. I didn't move. I finished the first page. I set it down, aligning it perfectly with the edge of the table. I didn't look at Megan. I didn't look at Andre. I didn't look at the shark in the suit. I turned my head, slowly. I looked directly at my wife. Brenda was sitting at the far end of the table, as far away from me as she could get. She was staring at her hands, twisting them in her lap. Brenda. My voice was quiet. It wasn't a question. It was a command. It cut through the silence like a razor. She flinched, her whole body tensing. Brenda. I said again, my voice flat and cold. "Did you know about this?" She wouldn't look up. I could see her knuckles turning white. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Julian," she whispered. Her voice was breaking. "Julian, please. It's for Andre. It's for his future. He just needs a little help. It's just some papers." The air left my lungs in a single painful rush. "So you did know." It wasn't a question. It was a final judgment. The woman I had loved for 42 years. The woman I had been worried about, the woman I thought was a victim. She was in on it. She was letting them do it. She was going to watch them steal my home. I stared at Brenda, at her shaking hands, her downcast eyes. The air in the room was thick with betrayal. It was so quiet I could hear the expensive pen sitting on the table mocking me. Megan's smile was a tight, brittle thing. "Dad, is everything okay? You look pale." Andre shifted in his chair. "Yeah, Dad, it's a lot we know, but it's for the best. You just sign and we can all—" I raised my hand, just a small motion. It silenced him instantly. I put both of my hands on the thick stack of papers. Slowly, I closed the blue folder. I pushed it back to the center of the table. Mr. Henderson, the shark, leaned forward. "Julian," he said, his voice a smooth purr. "I understand this is a significant step, but I must advise you the interest rates we've locked in for this package are extremely time-sensitive. They won't be available past, say, Friday." It was a lie, an old, tired sales tactic. I looked at all of them. The shark, my greedy, weak-willed son, my vicious daughter-in-law, and my wife, my terrified, broken wife. I let out a long, slow breath. I leaned back in my chair, playing the part of the defeated old man. This is a lot, Megan. A lot to take in." I rubbed my face, letting my hand tremble just a little. "Your mother, she and I, we worked a long time for this place." "We know, Dad," Megan said, her voice softening, moving in for the kill. "That's why we want this for you, so you can finally relax. Let us take care of the details." "I need to think," I said. My voice was just a low murmur. I just need to think. I can't sign this right now. Not today. It's too much." I saw the flash of anger in Megan's eyes. It was there for just a fraction of a second, a hot white rage before she masked it with a patient sigh. "Of course, Dad. Of course, we understand." She looked at Andre, a look that clearly said, "He's more difficult than we thought." Andre just looked down, pouting. "Okay, Dad, but don't think too long. This is a really big opportunity for me. For us. Just give me the day," I whispered. "I'm tired. My head it's still fuzzy. I need to rest." Mr. Henderson stood up, a picture of professional disappointment. "Very well. I will leave the documents here for your review. My number is on the card." He snapped his leather briefcase shut. "Andre? Megan?" Megan and Andre walked him to the door. I heard them whispering in the entryway. "Don't worry," Megan was saying. "He'll come around. He's just old and scared. I'll talk to him again tonight. He'll sign." I heard the front door open and then click shut. I sat there at the table. I didn't move. I heard Megan and Andre go upstairs to their room, probably to celebrate their almost victory. I heard their door close. I waited. Then the man they thought was confused and frail, the man with the fuzzy head, stood up. My back was straight. My hand was steady. I walked into my study. It was my sanctuary. My old drafting table was in the corner. My engineering textbooks, my physics awards, my blueprints all lined the shelves. It was the room where I did my real thinking. I closed the heavy oak door. I turned the deadbolt. The click of the lock was satisfying. Final. I sat down at my mahogany desk. I pulled out my smartphone. I ignored the missed alerts and the news headlines. My thumb, steady as a surgeon's, scrolled to one name. Tiara. I hit the call button. She picked up on the second ring. Tiara was my daughter from my first marriage. She was a high-powered financial attorney in Chicago. She was brilliant. She was tough. And she had never, not for 1 second, trusted Andre or Megan. "Hey, Dad, everything okay?" Her voice was crisp, professional, but warm. "Tiara," I said. My voice was not the weak mumble from the dining room. It was the voice I used to command a factory floor. "I need you. There is a situation at the house. The warmth in her voice vanished. A situation. What is it? Brenda, is her health okay? It's Andre, I said, and his wife. And yes, in a way, it involves your stepmother. What did they do? She asked. I am sending you 2 things right now, I said. The first is a video file. I need you to watch it. The second is a set of photographs of a legal document. I need your professional opinion, immediately. I need you to clear your schedule. This is not a request. Dad, you're scaring me. What's going on? Just look at the files. Call me back as soon as you've seen them. I hung up. I opened my secure cloud app. I found the video file from 2:20 a.m. Megan Brenda pills at MP4. I typed in Tiara's secure email address. I hit send. Then I went back to the dining room. The blue folder was sitting on the table, a snake waiting in the grass. I took it back to my study. I locked the door again. I laid the documents out on my desk under the bright lamplight. One by one, I photographed every single page, the application, the terms, the default clauses, the mandatory counseling waived checkbox that had already been ticked, and the last page, the one with the signature lines waiting for me to sign my life away. I attached the 23 images to a new email. Subject contract. I hit send. The blue sent checkmark appeared. I looked at the clock. 10:15 a.m. I waited. My phone rang at 10:18 a.m. I answered it. Tiara. I heard her breathing. She was furious. It wasn't a hot, yelling anger. It was the cold, pressurized rage that had made her one of the most feared lawyers in her firm. Dad! Her voice was a low growl. They are trying to drug you. I know, I said. That video, that is a conspiracy to commit assault, at minimum. That's a felony. And these papers, my God, it's a reverse mortgage. But the terms, these fees are criminal. This Henderson character, I'm running his license right now. This is predatory. This is, Dad, this is felony elder exploitation. This isn't a family dispute. This is a crime scene. I know. I'm on the next flight, she said. I'll be there by 4. Do not leave the house. No, wait. You need to get out of the house, right now. Go to a hotel. Go to a friend's. They are actively trying to harm you. We need to call the police. I am calling the Chicago PD to do a wellness check and connect with your local precinct. This is... Tiara. I cut her off. My voice was sharper than hers. You're going to do nothing of the sort. I am not leaving. This is my house, and we are not calling the police. Not yet. What? She was sputtering. Dad, this is not the time for pride. This is a legal and physical threat. Listen to me, I commanded. You're my lawyer. So be my lawyer. You saw the video, but did you watch Brenda? Did you really look at her? This stopped her. I heard the clicking of her keyboard pause. What do you mean? She's terrified, I said. She's not a conspirator, Tiara. She's a hostage. Look at her. She's trembling. She's crying. She's being forced. Forced, Dad. She's a grown woman. Megan is running the show. Andre is her weak-willed puppet, but they have something on Brenda. They are holding some kind of leverage over her. That's why she's doing this. That's why she messed up and brought me the wrong pills. She was buying time. She was scared. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Tiara was processing this new information. The anger was being replaced by cold, hard strategy. Okay, she said slowly. Okay, if that's true, if she's a victim too, what are they using? That, I said leaning back in my chair, is your next job. What do you mean? I need you to find the leverage. I need you to find out what's wrong, but not with me. I need you to check on Brenda. I need you to use every legal tool you have. Pull her medical records, pull her financial records, do a deep dive on her credit report. Something is squeezing her Tiara, something new, something powerful, and I need to know what it is before I make my next move. I had her. The mystery had shifted. It wasn't just what they were doing, it was why Brenda was a part of it. Find the weapon they're holding to her head, Tiara, I said, my voice dropping. Find it, and find it fast. I stayed locked in my study. The house was quiet, too quiet. I imagined Megan and Andre upstairs toasting their success, already spending my money in their heads. I imagined Brenda in our bedroom lying down, her mind tormented, trapped. I stared at the phone. It felt like hours, but the digital clock on my desk said only 11:30 a.m. Tiara was fast, but this was a deep dig. At 11:47, the phone rang. The screen lit up, Tiara. I took a deep breath. Talk to me. Okay, Dad. Tiara's voice was all business. The anger was gone, replaced by the chilling precision of a surgeon. First part, your theory was right. I pulled a full panel on Brenda. Medically, she's clean. In fact, her health is excellent for her age. No new prescriptions, no cognitive flags, nothing. She is not a patient. A wave of relief washed over me so strong I had to grip the desk. She wasn't sick. She wasn't losing her mind. But, Tiara continued, and my grip tightened again. Your theory was also wrong. The leverage they're using, it's not against Brenda directly, it's against Andre. Go on, I said. He didn't lose $20,000 in a dropshipping business, Dad. He owes $85,000 to a bookie, an illegal one, some very, very bad people based out of Vegas. $85,000. The number hung in the air. I pulled his bank records. Tiara said, her voice fast, like she was reading from a report. His account is overdrawn. He's been getting cash advances from, well, we'll get to that. The point is, he's desperate. I made a few discreet calls to a PI I use. The people he owes money to are not wait-and-see types. They are break-your-kneecaps types. They gave him a deadline, and that deadline is end of this week. Friday, the day Mr. Henderson said the time-sensitive rates would expire. It all clicked into place. The urgency, the desperation. So they threatened her. They threatened him, Tiara corrected. They told Brenda that if she didn't help them get the money, Andre would be hospitalized. Or worse. They put her in an impossible position. Betray her husband or watch her son get murdered. My God. My poor Brenda. The video replayed in my head, her shaking hands, her terrified sobs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She wasn't apologizing to them. She was apologizing to me. That's the leverage, Dad, Tiara said softly. They are using her love for that worthless son of hers as a gun to her head, and she pulled the trigger. I was silent. The fury I felt was so pure, so cold, it almost choked me. They hadn't just plotted against me. They had tortured my wife. They had systematically terrorized a 65-year-old woman, forcing her into a conspiracy to drug her own husband. And it gets worse, Tiara said. How can it possibly get worse? Because I dug into Megan. I wondered where she was getting all this confidence, this control. You said she was a retail manager at a high-end boutique, right? That's what she told us. She was, Tiara replied. Past tense. She was fired 3 months ago, and not just fired, Dad. She was fired for embezzlement, for stealing nearly $30,000 in merchandise and cash from the register. I closed my eyes. Of course, a thief, a professional. They didn't press charges, Tiara continued, because the family is wealthy and didn't want the scandal. They just made her sign a non-disclosure agreement and buried it. But they have her on camera. She's a criminal. She's unemployable in that field. She has no money, no job, no prospects. She's just as desperate as Andre is. So, a gambler and an embezzler, a match made in hell, living under my roof, eating my food, plotting my demise. Dad? Tiara's voice was hesitant. There's one more piece. When I was looking at Andre's finances, I saw where he was getting his cash advances from. They weren't from his bank. I knew the answer before she even said it. My stomach dropped. Dad, have you checked your credit card statements this month? The joint card, the one you added Andre and Megan to for emergencies? I didn't answer. My other hand was already on my computer mouse. I clicked my browser. I went to my bank's homepage. I logged in. I clicked on credit card activity. The page loaded. My heart stopped. It wasn't just gas. It wasn't just groceries. Saks Fifth Avenue, $2, $800. Louis Vuitton, $4, $100. Del Frisco's Steakhouse, $750. Cash advance ATM, $1,000. Cash advance ATM, $1,000. Cash advance ATM, $1,000. Again and again and again. They had maxed it out. Over $25,000. In 6 weeks. The drop shipping business that burned $20,000. It wasn't their $20,000. It was my $20,000. I finally understood. Megan wasn't just an accessory. Andre wasn't just a fool. This was her plan. She was the embezzler. She knew how to cook the books, how to move money, how to lie. When she got fired, she didn't panic. She found a new target, me. She latched onto Andre's debt. She didn't see it as a problem. She saw it as leverage. She used his $85,000 debt as the perfect tool to break my wife. Help us get the house, Mom, or the loan sharks will kill your son. It was brilliant. It was vicious. And it was pure evil. They weren't just trying to steal from me. They were trying to pay off a gangster with my money and then use the rest to fund the lifestyle Megan felt she was entitled to. My internal compass recalibrated. Everything was clear. Brenda wasn't my enemy. She was my fellow hostage. The video in my head changed. It was no longer a video of betrayal. It was a video of a woman under duress, her fumbling with the pills. They looked so much alike. It wasn't incompetence. It was a desperate, brilliant act of sabotage. She deliberately brought me the wrong pills. She was trying to warn me to buy me time in the only way she knew how. Megan's rage. Don't mess this up again. This wasn't the first time Brenda had failed. My wife, my quiet, gentle Brenda, had been fighting them, alone, for weeks. The pieces didn't just fit. They locked into place with the cold, hard click of an engineer's design. Megan was the architect. Andre was the motive. And Brenda was the unwilling tool they had tried to sharpen into a weapon. And I was the bank. The tired, confused old man who was supposed to just sign on the dotted line, fade into a drugged stupor, and die. A cold, hard smile touched my lips. They thought I was a mark. They were about to find out I was a hunter. Tiara, I said, my voice perfectly calm. You're on the next flight. I don't care what it costs. I'm already in the car to O'Hare, Dad. I'll be there by 5. Good, I said. Because my plan has changed. We're no longer just defending. We are now attacking. I wasn't just going to stop them. I was going to rescue my wife, and I was going to dismantle their lives piece by piece until nothing was left. My anger was a cold, clean thing now. The shock was gone. The betrayal was gone. All that was left was the mission. The engineer in me had taken over. I had a structural problem in my house, and I was going to remove the rot beam by beam. Tiara, I said, my voice low and steady. Your flight. I need you to change it. I don't want you here by 5 p.m. I need you here tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., not a minute later. There was a pause. I could hear her processing the change. 9 a.m. Dad, why wait? They're dangerous. They're drugging. Because, I interrupted, they are arrogant, and their arrogance is the weapon we're going to use. They are expecting a confused old man to think about it today. They're expecting to pressure me tonight. Tomorrow morning they will expect a signature. Instead, we will deliver a reckoning. Can you be here by 9? I'll be on the red eye, she said. I'll be there by 8 easy. What's the plan? You are my lawyer. You will be here as my lawyer, but we need more. Call Dr. Ben Carter. He's my oldest friend. You know him. Dr. Carter. Why? Because he's the one who prescribed my sleeping pills after my surgery. The pills Megan is trying to get Brenda to steal. Call him. Tell him I'm having a senior moment and I'm worried about my medication. Tell him I need him to come over as a personal favor. 9 a.m. He needs to be here as my friend and as a witness. Okay, I can do that, she said, the strategy clicking in her mind. One more call, I said. And this is the important one. I don't want you to call 911. Call the non-emergency line for my precinct. I want you to ask for a specific person. Detective Diaz, Financial Crimes Unit. Diaz. The guy we met at that community barbecue. The same, I said. He's smart. He's not a hothead. He'll understand. Tell him you are a financial attorney. Tell him you have video and documentary evidence of a conspiracy to commit felony elder fraud, financial exploitation, and assault. Tell him the meeting to sign the fraudulent documents is happening at 9 a.m. tomorrow, at my house. Tell him to be here, quietly, no lights, no sirens. I want him in plain clothes. Dad, Tiara's voice was a mix of awe and fear. That's a full-on sting operation. That's exactly what it is, I said. We are setting a trap, 9 a.m., my study. Can you make those calls? Consider it done, she said. I'm booking my flight right now. I hung up the phone. I sat at my desk. The legal pieces were in motion. Now for the physical evidence. I thought about the video. I thought about Megan's cold, calculating anger. I thought about Brenda, my poor, terrified Brenda. And then something clicked. a detail from last night, after Brenda had come back from their room after her failed attempt to get the pills. She had been a wreck. She was crying into her pillow. I had pretended to be asleep. About 10 minutes later, Megan had appeared in our doorway. "Mom," she had whispered, "you need to calm down. You're going to wake him up." I remember hearing Brenda's muffled sob. I can't do this." Then Megan's voice suddenly patient. I know. It's stressful. Wait here." She had gone to the kitchen. I heard the tap run. She came back into our bedroom. I could see her silhouette in the dark. "Here, Mom," she had said. "I brought you a glass of water. I put a little something in it, one of my old anxiety pills. It'll just help you sleep. We need you rested." Brenda had mumbled her thanks. I heard her drink it down. She was asleep in less than 5 minutes. A deep, heavy, unnatural sleep. And this morning, Brenda was the one who was fuzzy. She was the one who was confused, who couldn't find the Tylenol. My blood turned to ice. They weren't just trying to drug me. They were actively drugging my wife. They were drugging her to keep her compliant, to keep her scared, to break her will, to make her the confused, senile old woman they needed so that she would believe she was the problem. This was a new, deeper level of evil. I stood up. I unlocked my study door. I walked down the hall to my bedroom. Brenda was lying on the bed just as I'd left her. She was fast asleep, in the middle of the day. She was breathing, but it was too shallow. And on the nightstand right next to her was the empty glass. My hands were perfectly steady. I went to the kitchen, my movements precise. I pulled a large Ziploc bag from the drawer. I went back to the bedroom. Using a tissue from the box on her dresser, I carefully, slowly picked up the glass. I didn't touch the rim. I didn't smudge a single print. I placed it inside the Ziploc bag. I sealed it. Evidence item number 1. I took the bag back to my study. I locked the door. I walked to the painting on the wall, the one of the View Park Hills at sunset. I lifted it off its hook. Behind it was a small black wall safe. I spun the dial, a combination I had set 40 years ago. Click, clack, click. I heard the tumblers fall. The heavy steel door swung open with a quiet hiss. I reached inside. I pulled out a thick plastic-sleeved folder. The original hard copy grant deed to my house. The title. Every document proving free and clear that I was the sole owner. I set it on the desk. I reached back into the safe. I pulled out another file. It was very old, very thin. It was bound in a faded blue folder. On the tab, written in my own precise engineering script from decades ago, were 2 words. Post-nuptial, 2005. I placed the file on my desk right next to the bagged glass. I had my legal team. I had my physical evidence. And I had my final, inescapable checkmate. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait for the mice to come for the cheese. I stayed in my study for hours. I let the silence in the house build. I let them wait. I let their arrogance and their impatience fester. I heard them pacing in the living room. I heard them whispering. I heard Megan snap at Andre twice. They were getting nervous. Finally, around 3 in the afternoon, I decided it was time. I took a deep breath. I let my shoulders slump. I practiced my fuzzy voice in my head. I ruffled my own hair to make it look like I'd been sleeping or in distress. I unlocked the deadbolt. The click was loud in the silent house. I opened the door slowly. I shuffled out into the hallway. I kept my eyes on the floor. I played the part of a man whose spine had just been ripped out. They were in the living room just as I thought. Megan was on the sofa, scrolling angrily on her phone. Andre was pacing in front of the fireplace, chewing on his fingernail. They both looked up when they saw me. Their faces were a mask of impatience. "Well," Megan said, not, "Are you okay, Dad?" Not, "What's wrong?" Just, "Well." I didn't answer right away. I shuffled over to my old armchair. I didn't just sit in it. I collapsed into it. I let out a long, shuddering sigh, a sound I'd practiced, a sound of total and complete defeat. "Dad?" Andre asked, his voice a nervous whine. I looked up. I made sure my eyes were watery. I looked right past them at the framed photo of Brenda and me on the mantel. We were younger. We were happy. This house," I said, my voice rough and weak. It's just wood and nails, I suppose. It's just things." Megan's eyes narrowed. She was suspicious. She was a predator sensing a trick. I turned my gaze to her. You've done a real number on my wife." "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice defensive. "Brenda," I said. She's a wreck. She's been in our room crying since that man left. She said I was being selfish, that I was ruining Andre's future, that I was going to be responsible if something bad happened to him." I let that hang in the air. I saw the look that passed between Megan and Andre. It was triumph. They thought their threats against Andre, their leverage on Brenda had worked. They thought Brenda had broken me. I hung my head. I'm 68 years old, Megan. I'm too tired to fight my own family. I'm too tired to watch my wife fall apart. I looked up, making eye contact with her. "All right, you win." Andre stopped pacing. "What? You win?" I repeated, my voice flat. I'm tired. I'll sign the papers. I don't care anymore." The silence in the room was absolute. Andre's jaw was hanging open. Megan's face was a masterpiece. She tried to maintain her patient, understanding daughter-in-law look, but she failed. A slow, bright, toxic smile spread across her face. It was the smile of a jackal that had just brought down a lion. "Oh, Dad," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy as she stood up. That's wonderful. I'm so glad." "You're doing the right thing, for all of us." "Yeah, Dad," Andre cheered, a stupid happy grin on his face. See, I told you it was a great plan. It's for the best." Megan was already pulling her phone out of her pocket. She didn't waste a second. She didn't come over to comfort me. She didn't offer me a glass of water. She went straight to closing the deal. "I'm going to call Mr. Henderson right now," she said, her fingers flying across the screen. "We need to get this done immediately, just while the rates are still good." She held the phone to her ear. She turned her back to me, already a general commanding her army. I was just a casualty, a dot on a map she had already conquered. "Mr. Henderson," she said, her voice changing, becoming crisp and professional. "Hi, it's Megan. Yes, I have wonderful news. My father-in-law is fully on board. He's seen the light. He's ready to sign. Yes. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., that would be perfect. Absolutely. He'll be here. He'll be ready. Thank you so much." She hung up the phone. She let out a little triumphant sigh. She turned around, that $1,000,000 smile plastered on her face. "It's done. 9 a.m. tomorrow. It's all settled." "Good," I said, still slumped in my chair. "Good." I paused. I let the silence sit. I let her enjoy her victory for a full 10 seconds. Then I added the final piece. "Oh," I said, as if the thought had just occurred to my fuzzy old brain. Just one more thing." Megan's smile faltered. Just a little. "What?" "Well," I said, rubbing my forehead, "since this is such a big family decision, and, it's a lot of money, a lot of legal papers." "Dad, what is it?" She snapped, her patience gone. I called Tiara." The air went out of the room. Andre, who had been bouncing on his heels, froze. Megan's smile didn't just fade, it shattered. "You? What?" "I called Tiara." I repeated, my voice small and innocent. I just wanted her to be here, as a witness, to make sure everything is fair. She's a lawyer, "She's a what?" Andre squeaked. "A lawyer's son. A financial lawyer. Very smart. I just wanted her to look over the papers, just to make sure all our interests are protected. She's so good with the fine print." Megan was staring at me. Her face, which had been flushed with victory, was now a pale, waxy white. "She's coming here?" Megan's voice was barely a whisper. "Oh, yes," I said, giving her my most pathetic, watery smile. "She's flying in tonight, on the red-eye. She was so happy to help. She said she'd be here, right at 9 a.m., just in time for the signing." I looked around the room as if I was the host of a wonderful party. Isn't that wonderful? We'll all be together. A real family celebration. "For your new future, Andre." I watched her. I watched that perfect, triumphant smile lock into a frozen, horrified grimace. It was like watching ice form on a window pane, beautiful and terrible all at once. She knew. In that instant, she knew she had miscalculated. She knew Tiara was not a confused old woman. She knew Tiara was a shark just like her, and she was coming. She opened her mouth. She tried to find a reason to object, but she couldn't. How could she? How could she say, "No, I don't want your smart lawyer daughter to read the contract I'm forcing you to sign"? She was trapped. "That's," she finally choked out, "that's great, Dad. Just great." "Yes," I said, settling back into my chair. "It is." The trap was set. The bait was taken. And the executioner was on her way. 9 a.m. On the dot. The living room was staged for a surrender. My surrender. Mr. Henderson, the silver-haired shark, was sitting at my dining room table, his sleek leather briefcase open. The thick blue folder, the one containing my execution papers, was sitting in the center of the table, perfectly aligned with the edge. He had a gold-plated pen placed right next to it. He was sipping a glass of water, the picture of calm, predatory confidence. Megan and Andre were practically vibrating with a greedy, nervous energy. Megan was wearing the same cream-colored pantsuit, a uniform of false power. She kept checking her watch, her foot tapping an impatient rhythm on my hardwood floor. Andre was pacing behind her, running his sweaty palms down his cheap suit pants. He looked like a kid waiting to open his Christmas presents. And then there was Brenda. She was the ghost at the feast. She was sitting in a small chair in the far corner of the room, as far away from the table as she could get. She was pale, her eyes red and swollen from a night of terror, and I now knew a night of being drugged. She was twisting a tissue in her hands, her gaze fixed on the floor. She wouldn't look at me. She was a prisoner waiting for her sentence. Julian sat in my armchair. I was hunched over. I was rubbing my temples. I was playing the part of the confused, defeated old man down to the very last second. "Well," Megan said, her voice sharp and brittle. "It's 9. Mr. Henderson is a busy man, Dad. Shall we get this started?" "Yes," I said, my voice a weak, gravelly whisper. I suppose so. Let's just get it over with." I made a show of trying to stand up, grunting as if in pain. And right at that precise moment, the doorbell rang. The sound cut through the room like a gunshot. Megan's head snapped toward the door. "Who on earth is that?" she hissed. "Andre, go see who it is. Tell them we're in a meeting." Andre, annoyed, stormed to the front door. "We're busy," he yelled as he pulled it open. And then he just froze. Tiara was standing on the doormat. She was not the daughter I had just spoken to on the phone, hurried and worried. This was Tiara, the lawyer. She was wearing a dark navy blue pantsuit that looked like armor. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun. Her face was a mask of cold, righteous fury. She was holding a thick, black leather briefcase. "Good morning, Andre," she said, her voice like ice. She didn't wait for an invitation. She walked right past him and into the living room. "Tiara," Andre stammered. What are you doing here?" Megan had stood up, her face a mixture of shock and rage. "Tiara, Dad, you said 9 a.m. "I am here," Tiara said, "for the 9 a.m. meeting. I'm my father's legal counsel." "We don't need," Megan started. "But Tiara didn't come alone," I said. My voice was no longer weak. It was strong, it was clear, it was my old voice, the engineer's voice, the father's voice. And as I spoke, 2 more people walked in right behind Tiara. First, Dr. Ben Carter, my oldest friend, his face grim. He was carrying his old-fashioned medical bag. And behind him, 2 men in unremarkable suits. Men who scanned the room not with social curiosity, but with professional assessment. Detective Diaz and Detective Chen. Megan's face went from pale to a sickly greenish white. She looked from the detectives to Tiara to me. "What is this?" she screamed, her voice cracking. "What the hell is this, Dad? What did you do?" I stood up from my armchair. I was no longer slumped. I stood up straight to my full height. "I believe," I said, "you called this a family intervention, Megan, and I agree." I turned to the shark at the table. "Mr. Henderson, your services are no longer required. There will be no signing today." Henderson looked from the detectives to me. He was smart. He immediately started snapping his briefcase shut. "In fact," I continued, "you might want to stay. Detective Diaz here specializes in financial crimes. I'm sure he'd love to discuss the predatory terms and waived counseling clauses in that document you're holding. Henderson's hands fumbled. He dropped his pen. I was just contracted. I had no idea. He grabbed his case and made a beeline for the door, nearly knocking Andre over. I'm gone. No, you stay, Detective Diaz said, his voice quiet but full of authority. The shark froze by the door. Dad, what are you doing? Andre was yelling now, his voice a pathetic squeal. You're ruining everything. This was my chance. Your chance, Tiara said, her voice dripping with contempt. She stepped forward and slammed her own briefcase onto the dining room table. She clicked it open. Your chance for what, Andre? She pulled out a thick bound file. Is this your chance? This file. The one detailing your $85,000 gambling debt? The one with the names of the Vegas loan sharks who were going to hospitalize you by Friday if you didn't pay up. Andre's face collapsed. He looked at Megan. You told her. She didn't tell me, Tiara said. The bank records did. This is... Megan was sputtering, trying to find her footing. This is slander. This is a private family matter. It stopped being a private matter. I said, when you decided to drug my wife. Brenda let out a small, strangled gasp from the corner. She looked at me, her eyes wide. Dr. Ben Carter stepped forward. Megan Andre, I'm Dr. Carter. I'm Julian's physician. I'm also the physician whose clinic was called yesterday by a woman claiming to be my nurse, asking for a verification on Mr. Vance's sleeping pill prescription. A woman whose voice I now realize sounds a lot like yours, Megan. I don't know what you're talking about, Megan spat. Don't you? I said. I walked to my study. I returned holding the large sealed Ziploc bag. I placed it on the table next to Tiara's file, the empty glass. This is the glass you gave my wife last night, Megan, I said. The one with the little something in it to help her sleep. Dr. Carter has already cross-referenced the sedative residue in this glass with the ones you were trying to steal. They match. You have been actively drugging your mother-in-law to keep her confused and compliant. That's a lie, Megan shrieked. She was a cornered animal now, all fangs. You have no proof. You have nothing. This is the rambling of a senile old man. That's what he is. He's confused. He's been confused for weeks. She pointed at me. Detectives, he's the one who needs help. He's paranoid. He's been losing his mind. We were just trying to help him manage his affairs. This meeting was to protect his assets. Andre, seeing his only move, jumped in. Yeah, that's right, Dad. You've been forgetting things. You're not well. You don't know what you're saying. It was a good bluff, a desperate one, but I was an engineer, and I had been waiting for this exact moment. Proof, I said, my voice dangerously calm. You want proof, Megan? You think I'm confused. I walked over to the large flat-screen television mounted on the wall. I picked up the remote control. I'm an engineer, Megan, I said. I don't believe in theories. I believe in data. I believe in what I can see. I pointed the remote. I pressed the on button. The screen flickered to life. It wasn't the morning news. It was a grainy green night vision video feed. The audio was filled with a slight electronic hiss. But the voices were crystal clear. The entire room went dead silent. We all watched as a shaky, ghostly image of Brenda entered the frame. We all saw Megan, wrapped in her silk robe, snatch the orange bottle from her hand. And then we all heard Megan's voice, amplified by the TV's speakers, echoing through my living room. This is his blood pressure medication, you senile old fool. Megan's face, the real Megan, the one standing by the table, didn't just go pale. It crumpled. It was a total systemic failure. We heard Andre's pathetic whine. Oh, Mom, you're messing this up. And then the checkmate. We all heard Megan's cold, calculating hiss. We need him, confused, for the meeting. I let the video play. I let them all hear the entire sickening 3-minute conspiracy, the plotting, the abuse, the clear, undeniable criminal intent, all in their own voices. When the video loop ended, the room was silent. Brenda was sobbing her hand over her mouth, but these were not tears of fear. They were tears of release. She finally understood. She finally saw that I knew. Andre had sunk to the floor. His whole body was shaking. No, no, no. Megan just stood there, frozen. Her eyes were wide, darting from the blank TV screen to my face and back again. She was a statue of her own arrogance, finally and forever broken. I clicked the remote. The screen went black. "So," I said, my voice the only sound in the room, "who exactly is confused?" The silence in the room was a heavy, suffocating thing, broken only by the sound of the video's echo fading away. Andre was the first to break. He didn't just cry. He collapsed. He was a 35-year-old man curled on my floor like a child, his whole body shaking with pathetic, gulping sobs. "It was her!" he screamed, his voice muffled by the carpet. He pointed a shaking finger at his wife. "It was all her. I didn't want to. She made me. She told me it was the only way. She threatened me." Megan's head snapped toward him. "You weak, pathetic—" "That's enough," Detective Diaz said. His voice was calm, but it cut through the hysteria like a steel blade. He stepped forward. "Andre, Megan, you are both under arrest." Andre just sobbed harder. "No, no, please." Detective Chen moved to Andre, pulling his hands behind his back. "Conspiracy to commit elder fraud." Diaz continued listing the charges as Chen clicked the handcuffs shut. "Financial exploitation and conspiracy to commit assault related to the drugging of both Mr. and Mrs. Vance." Chen pulled Andre to his feet. He was just a boneless puppet of a man, his fight completely gone. But as Detective Diaz approached Megan, her shock finally cracked, and what was underneath was not fear. It was pure, unadulterated rage. She recoiled from the handcuffs, her eyes blazing with a hatred so pure it was almost beautiful. "You," she shrieked, not at the detectives but at me. "You stupid, stupid old fool! You think you've won. You think this changes anything." She was cornered, but she still had one last poisoned card to play. "You'll never get rid of us," she screamed, her voice echoing in the quiet room. This house is half hers." She pointed a venomous, trembling finger at Brenda. "It's half my mother-in-law's. Andre is her son. She will give us her half. She will sign it over. You can't stop us. We'll sell it. We'll force a sale. We'll take everything." It was her last, desperate lunge for power, her final, rattling threat. She still believed she had an angle. She still believed she had broken Brenda. Brenda looked up from her corner, her face a mask of horror. After everything, Megan was still trying to use her, but I just shook my head, slowly. "No, Megan," I said, my voice quiet. "She can't." Megan's hysterical rant stopped. What did you say?" I turned. I walked past the detectives back to my study. I heard Megan start to yell again. I heard Tiara's sharp voice, "Be quiet." I returned. I wasn't holding my phone. I was holding the old faded blue file, the one from the back of my safe. I didn't give it to the detectives. I didn't give it to Megan. I walked over to my daughter. "Tiara," I said, "if you would." Tiara took the file. Her face was grim. She opened it. "This," she announced to the room, her voice the clear, cold bell of a courtroom, "is a post-nuptial agreement. It was signed by Julian Vance and Brenda Vance on May 14th, 2005. I've already reviewed it, Mr. Henderson, in case you were curious. It is ironclad." Megan's face was blank. What is that, a post-nup?" I looked at my son, who was now just a cuffed, sobbing wreck by the door. "When Andre turned 18, I said, my voice calm. He conned his grandmother, my mother, out of $5,000 for a class trip that didn't exist. His first real fraud. I knew right then what he was. I knew as an engineer that he was a structural flaw. I knew this day or a day like it would eventually come. I looked at Brenda. "So, Brenda and I continued, "we made a plan. It was her idea. To protect our family from our own son." Tiara held up the first page. "This agreement," she said, "legally and irrevocably transferred 100% of the ownership title and deed of this property. 1245 View Park Drive and all associated assets into an irrevocable trust." Megan's mind was racing, trying to find the loophole. "A trust? What? What trust? We'll break it. We'll contest it." And then I gave her the final piece, the payoff, the last perfectly designed gear clicking into place. "It's called the Tiara Vance Irrevocable Trust," I said. "The sole trustee is my daughter." The blood drained from Megan's face. The full, systemic, inescapable reality of her failure finally hit her. It was no longer rage. It was a vacuum. "Brenda can't give you what she doesn't own, Megan," I said, my voice soft. "She signed her rights to this house away 20 years ago. She did it to protect it, not from me, from you." Detective Diaz nodded, finally snapping the second pair of handcuffs onto Megan's now limp wrist. "Let's go." The detectives led them out. Andre was still crying a pathetic, broken sound. Megan. Megan was finally blessedly silent. Her eyes were empty. They were the eyes of someone who had gambled everything and lost. The front door clicked shut. The house was quiet. Tiara looked at me. She looked at Brenda, who was still huddled in the corner, trembling. Then my daughter, my brilliant, strong daughter, went over to my wife. She didn't say anything. She just knelt down and gently, so gently, put her arm around Brenda's shoulders. And Brenda, my wife. She leaned into her stepdaughter, and for the first time in what must have felt like a lifetime, she let out a sob. It wasn't a sob of fear or of pain. It was a sob of pure, unadulterated release. I stood there. I looked at my house, at my family, the two women I loved most. The storm had broken. The rot had been removed. Order. Order was finally restored. This entire nightmare taught me one crucial lesson: you must never underestimate the quiet ones. They thought I was a confused old man, but they forgot I was an engineer. I spent my life building things to last, and that included my family's protection. It also showed me that a person like my wife Brenda can be a victim and a hero at the same time, fighting a silent war we know nothing about. We are now rebuilding our lives and our trust on a foundation cleared of all rot. What part of Megan and Andre's plan shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and please like and subscribe so you don't miss another story of truth and justice.